welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to pick blackberries and then make some homemade blackberry cobbler. Okay, so you're picking blackberries. What do you do after you pick them?
So you put a little bit of water in there in a pot just to cover them. You don't put a whole lot. And then you boil them for cook them down about 20 or 25 minutes until they're easy to mash. And then you put them through a strainer or a cheesecloth, make juice out of them, because I like blackberries, but to me the seeds make them very bitter, so it's better if you make juice out of them. And then once you get the juice made, you can make jelly or you can make cobbler, which is what I like to do. Okay, first we're washing the berries and getting all the stems and leaves and junk out of the berries. Okay, then we're going to put them in a pot. I don't like the seeds, so we have to cook the berries down to make the juice. So we're from the South, so I don't measure the sugar. I just put it in there. So this has to cook down for probably about 20 minutes. I don't like seeds in my berries, and my grandmother taught me that you do not put seeds in your blackberry cobbler or if you're making jelly, you use just the juice. So in order to do that, you put a bit of sugar in here and you cook the berries down for probably about 20 minutes. My berries are cooking. I'm gonna set up the cheesecloth strainer, and I don't know where I got this at. I think it was just at a home store. It's a cheesecloth and it strains all your seeds out one time, so you don't have to worry about it. So if you wanted to do it with a strainer, that's fine, but you probably need to strain it a few times. But a cheesecloth is better because it gets all the seeds out at one time and you don't have to worry about straining it again. When the berries get done, we'll strain them out into juice. So when it gets cooked down, you mash the berries as much as you can before you strain them. Okay, we're going to mash the berries with a potato masher. And now we're going to strain the berries through the cheesecloth. Okay, so our berries are through straining, and we need to taste test it to make sure that it has enough sugar in it. Okay, so we're removing the cheesecloth with the seeds in it, and we're going to discard those. We're going to put the juice back in our pot because we're going to have to boil it in order to make the cobbler. That's just the sugar, and it will melt. So you can either make jelly or you can make cobbler like I'm going to do. And if you're going to make jelly, you just get a box of Sure Gel and do jelly just like you would for any other fruit. You want to bring your juice back to a boil, and while that's coming to a boil, you're gonna make biscuit dough. And as we go, I'll show you what we do with that. We're gonna make a crust out of it, but we're also gonna make just dumplings, I guess, as most people would call them. That's just how my grandmother always did it, and that's how I do it. So we're gonna make basically biscuit dough, and then we're going to put pieces in here and make dumplings out of that. And we'll let it boil for just a few minutes with those dumplings in there, and then we're going to put it in a pan, put a topping on it of a crust, and let it bake. And you bake it around 350. So I do measure the biscuit dough, and I just use regular Bisquick, but you can use whatever recipe you have for making biscuits is fine. Recipe calls for 2 1/4 cups of Bisquick, so we'll make about that. We'll probably have to double the recipe, so I'm gonna put 4 cups. We're measuring the milk to go into the biscuit dough. Since I'm using Bisquick, I don't have to add anything else except the milk. So we're doubling it. So you're going to take about half of that. I'm from the South, so I'm using whatever I can come up with to roll my dough out on. I also do not have a rolling pin, and the one time I used a rolling pin, I only used it one time. So when I was growing up, we used the glass. So that's what I'm doing. And cut this in strips. Making a mess. So my juice is boiling. So I'm going to take these and just drop them in there. Just like you would dumplings. If you were making chicken and dumplings. I guess we're making blackberry dumplings, basically. I'm going to taste test this again just to make sure it has enough sugar before I put the rest of those. Okay, so you boil that for just a few minutes. While that's boiling, I'm making a crust to go on top of it. We'll make it a little bit bigger than what the top is. So if we mess up, we don't cut it off. We're going to take all the juice and all the dumplings and put them in the bowl. Now you can pour it in there, but I'm scooping it because if you pour it, it's going to splash and burn you. Now, I'm not a professional, so alright, that will go in a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes. You might want to put a pan up under your dish that you're using because sometimes it'll bubble and overflow and make a mess. About 5 minutes before your cobbler is done, you're going to take it out of the oven and put some butter and some sugar on top of your crust. So I'm out of soft butter, so it doesn't matter, you just use whichever butter. So I'm going to put some little pats of butter on top of it, it'll melt. And just take a spoon and get some sugar and sprinkle it on the top. Okay, and then you put that back in the oven for your last 5 minutes. So, of course, it's not a professional cobbler. And if you want it to look better, then you can use a Bolton pie crust, and it'll make it look a whole lot prettier. But we wasn't going for pretty, we're going for taste. So I'm gonna cut it for you just so you can see what it looks like on the inside. Now, it's pretty juicy right now, but if you'll let this sit for a little bit, that juice will gel. I actually like it a little better once it sets. It's pretty hot right now. It would be good right now with some ice cream. So, but that's what it looks like on the inside. It's a lot of pretty juicy. It will firm up if you'll let it set and cool off. So this is how we make grandmother's or Mama's homemade blackberry cobbler from scratch. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.